Breakneck through the Bible 2017-2018, class number 36. So first of all, just a quick couple announcements. Number one is the high holidays are coming up in 3 weeks. 3 weeks from last night. Right, from last, it's a Sunday night. Right, the holiday starts Sunday night. Right, Sunday night, September 9th, we have our learner service. We actually have learner service down here in Farno, Dallas, in Plano, and we actually have in Richardson as well. We'll be having 4 learner services over the with the high holidays. On Rosh Hashanah, it starts at night. The 2 nights, Sunday night and Monday night at 7:25. During the daytime, it starts at 10:30 in the morning. And then Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre will be Tuesday night, right? It'll be Tuesday night, Monday night, and then during the daytime that will start at 7 p.m. and dining time will be at 10:30. Okay, that's number one. Number two is we're starting a great little program here at Data. We're doing a reading of a letter for the ages written by Nachmanides. A letter written by Nachmanides. If you sign up, you get a free book. Everyone gets a free book to read it, and it's actually broken up into it's kind of 30 chapters or so. If we start reading today, like a chapter, probably like a page and a half or 2 pages. You go ahead and we'll all finish it in time for Yom Kippur. And really, it's Nachmanides' ethical will to his son, something really that's really worth reading. So in the back of the room there, you pick up your book and to sign up. It's a great program and a great class. Okay, so we are up to page 37, chapter 8. I think verse number 6. Okay, so verse number 6, chapter 8, verse number 6. Kenny, you want to read?
Sure. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. He sent out the raven, and it kept...
Right, and so again, Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. So you clearly see Noah had made a window in the ark. Right, that's clearly, right, because he had a window for the raven to go out. And that's really why, if you take a look at the beginning of Parshas Noach, when it says that God told Noach to make a tzohar, you should make for your ark, right? And there are 2 opinions whether tzohar was a window or a diamond, or a light that would a precious gem that would reflect light, right? That those are the 2, right? So everyone agrees it was a window because we see in chapter 8, verse number 6, we see that there is a window, right? So that's not the issue. And the question is about what did God command him to do? Okay, go ahead.
He sent out the raven, and it kept going and returning until the waters dried from upon the earth.
Okay, now it's interesting. He sent out the raven. Okay, the raven did not want to go check out. He didn't want to leave Noach alone. Why did he not want to leave Noach alone?
Safe.
Because he suspected. Oh, very good. Because he suspected Noach that maybe Noach had his eye on Mrs. Raven.
Really?
Yes, sir. And so therefore he did not want to go out and did not want to go and leave Noach alone with her, and so the raven just went back and forth. Wow. Right. Again, remember, on the ark it was forbidden for any of the humans as well as any of the animals to have relations. Right. And remember, there were 3 of them that did. Right. And what were the 3 creatures that had relations on the ark? The raven is one. With Mrs. Raven. Number 2 is the dog. And number 3 was Ham. Right? Chum. Right? Noah's son Chum had relations with his wife. Right? And so they were punished, but the raven is one that he sent out, right, to go, right, and the raven did not want to go back and forth.
So what was the punishment for raven?
The raven, I think the punishment is that the way that the raven goes ahead and fertilizes the egg, they do it from his mouth to her mouth.
So the eggs comes from inside?
I don't know exactly how it works, but that's my understanding. We're not having relations because the world was in pain. world was being destroyed, right? And so therefore it was not appropriate to have relations. In fact, righteous people, even during the times of calamities, don't have relations with their spouse.
So that means the raven didn't have a trust on Noah.
Right. The Raven didn't trust Noah.
But they also trusted to go with him through to the ship and to take the journey. I mean, one way they trust him.
But again, they were commanded by God, right? So it's just interesting.
So it was just a commandment.
Right? They were commanded to go. Alrighty. Okay, go ahead. So the raven goes out, and the raven's flying back and forth, right? Just right around the ark, not going anywhere.
Then he sent out the dove from him to see whether the waters had subsided from the face of the ground. But the dove could not find a resting place for the sole of its foot, and it returned to him to the ark, for water was upon the surface of the earth. So he, I figured I was doing the walking here.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So he put forth his hand and took it, and he brought it to him into the ark. He waited again another 7 days, and again sent out the dove from the ark. The dove came back to him in the evening, and behold, an olive leaf that had plucked with its bill. And Noah knew that the waters had subsided from the earth. Then he waited again another 7 days and sent the dove forth, and it did not return to him again.
Okay, so what happens is, so finally, right, after 21 days, right, 3 times sending out the dove, right, it goes out, comes back, goes out, comes back, goes out, doesn't come back. The second time he comes back, what does he come back with?
An olive.
He comes back with an olive branch in its beak. Why does it come back with an olive branch?
It's a bitter flower, or bitter leaf.
It's a bitter leaf, right?
And,
Right.
and the concept is that it was better to have a food that he had gathered himself than to rely on something sweet that was given to him.
Right. He means he'd rather get a bitter food from God, right? Bitter food from God than to have something sweet for man. Now let me ask you a question. I thought everything was destroyed on the earth. So where did the olive branch come from?
Eden. The gates of Eden were open to the dove.
Okay, so why did God have the gates of Eden open?
He was merciful.
Because God was, by the way, you ever think why an olive branch is a sign of peace?
That's what I was going to ask you.
Right.
What bitterness it's a sign.
Right, so it's a sign of peace. But where does it come from? You just read the story. You just read with the source that you hand out an olive branch like in peace. This comes from an olive branch. That God let an olive branch come out of Garden of Eden, right? So that to show man that he's calling off the war against mankind, and that mankind is going to be able to live and to survive, and to move on.
So the Garden of Eden and the land is not too far apart.
So it's very interesting because also remember the entire world was destroyed as well as the top 3 handbreadths of the world. Okay, right? Of the dirt of the world was washed away. Okay, right? Was just washed off the face of the earth. Okay, right? It was washed off the face of the earth, and so the world really was a changed world, right? After, right, when they came back, right? The world was a changed world, right? When they came back, right? And so, right, it was just washed away, and so again, now it happens to be interesting, right? That according to some commentaries, right, the entire world flooded, but just in the land of Israel, the water didn't flood directly into the land of Israel. The water spilled over into the land of Israel, and so Israel got covered, right? But it didn't have the same force that the rest of the world had. And so therefore, so then when the olive branch somehow survived, but God kept it here that the dove, right, should find the olive branch and bring it back to Noach and saying, hey, right, we're going to call a peace.
So the land of Israel is blessed with Jews or without Jews, right?
The land of Israel is blessed. Well, it's God's land, but the Jewish people are really the ones that make it flourish. When the Jewish people are on the land of Israel flourishes. When the Jewish people are off it, the land does not flourish. What's interesting is, right, you ever heard of a native animals? Right, or native fauna? For example, what flower is native to Texas? Bluebonnet, right? Okay, bluebonnet. What tree is to Utah? Right, the one armed, right? Right, what are they called? Those? I also just forgot it. Right, they go ahead and they have, right? They have the cactus, right? The cactus, right? Means every place has its native fauna, right? Every land has its native animals, right? What's Texas' native animal? Longhorn or the armadillo, right? Whatever it is, right? Every place. You should know. And what does it mean it has a native plant or a native animal?
Those animals can only adapt in that area.
Or that's a place where it's perfect for that animal to thrive. Or it's a place where that there's a native flower, right? The native plant, that's a place where that flourishes. You should know every land has a native people. A native people. Right? Where does the native Jewish people belong? In the land of Israel. Right? Land of Israel, right? That's where our native land is. Okay? Right?
We are completely lost over here. We are right now.
Right? We are not in our land. But when the Jewish people go in the land of Israel, that's when the land of Israel flourishes. By the way, if you take a look, right, once the Jewish people were kicked off the land, right, land of Israel, and in 70, right? In 70 of the Common Era, really 150 of the Common Era, when they really got totally just kind of wiped out, right? The land of Israel for thousands of years, and 1,000, right? It's right from 70 to, right? For 1,900 years, 1,800 years, didn't really flourish, didn't really grow, right? It was a rocky and barren place. Right? To take a look at what they were fighting over at the Crusaders and the Muslims, what they were fighting over the land of Israel, and it was not a flourishing hotbed of a beautiful place. Why? Because as long as the Jewish people are on it, it does not flourish. You take a look. Since the last 70 years, when the Jewish people have gone back to the land of Israel, right? What has happened to the land of Israel?
It's great.
It's completely bloomed and flourished, because the Jewish people are native to the land of Israel.
And that relates very well to Nachmanides, because when he went to Jerusalem, it was literally barren.
Am I right? I mean, did you take a look? Right? It's not. I mean, you take a look at people. Right? I think Mark Twain actually has a quote. Even when they went to Israel, it's a gosh forsaken place, because when the Jewish people are in it, it doesn't work. Right? When the Jewish people are not in the land of Israel, it doesn't flourish. Right? We are its natural inhabitant. Every land has its people that flourish in that place.
Thinking that when I went to Israel also was amazing. Not that I'm saying anything about the other side, the other people that live in Israel, but the Israeli side was much greener than the other side.
You sure? I mean, you take it's night and day.
Anybody want to get some shade over here?
Right, it's night and day.
I mean, that's why there's a green line. It's the tree stuff. And the others.
And actually, it's interesting, right? When the Jewish people were in Gaza, right? So the amount of produce, right, that the Jewish farmers produced in Gaza was enormous. Right? They had all those hot houses, right? There was just a tremendous amount of greenery and of produce that came out. As soon as Israel left, and as soon as they left from Gaza, what happened?
Destroyed.
It actually got destroyed. You should know, it's actually interesting. I think Dennis Ross actually worked out that he had donors come and buy the equipment off the Jews, so that the Arabs could actually have some sort of some sort of livelihood. You know, once the Jewish farmers left Gaza, that they could do the greenhouse and have it grow. And actually, as soon as the Jewish people left, the next morning, the Arabs came and they destroyed all they destroyed all the equipment. And Israel was worried because it's going to be competition to what the Israelis are going to do, and it's just nonsense. It just went ahead and it just
they destroyed it.
They destroyed it. And actually,
it's also like a great story about the Golan being repopulated with trees, because when the Syrians took over the Golan and they had bunkers up on the Golan, and they had no shade, and the Jewish spy in Damascus said, you know, got your guys up there who need to be a little cooler, why don't you plant some trees?
right. And it's a famous story, right? So, but that's at the end of the Jewish people have to be on it. When the Jewish people are on it, the land flourishes. When the Jewish people are not, the land does not flourish. Right? That's the bottom line. Right? That's the difference that takes place.
So how come God chose a raven, not a dog? I mean, a raven is a dark bird.
I actually think that the raven is like a dark bird. I think is part of the punishment. Yeah. And that's yeah. Okay, so we wait another 7 days. So now the dove is gone. It's not going to come. It does not return any longer. And he found a place to settle, and that's where it went. Okay, verse number 13. Peter, you want to read?
Okay. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, on the first of the month, the waters dried from upon the earth. Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the surface of the ground had dried. And in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was fully dry.
Oh, okay. So when did the flood start? Anyone remember when the flood started?
40 days before 3 weeks, and before 2 months.
Okay, hold on. When did the flood stop?
A year later.
Second month, the 27th day of the second month. Anyone knows what the second month is?
March.
No.
Oh, I got it wrong. Nisan's the first month.
Well, it depends, right? There are two opinions when it started, right? Remember, we have our fiscal year and our month year, right? Our fiscal year, right, starts on, turns over on Rosh Hashanah, which is in 3 weeks' time. Right? We're going to go to 5, 7, 8, 9, right? And that's right, the new year, right? 57. This year was 57, 78. It's going to be 57, 79, right? 5, 7, 7, 9. Right, that's going to be a new year. So that then Tishrei would be month number 1, and then Cheshvan would be month number 2. The other opinion is that the first month of the Jewish calendar is Nisan, right? And so the second month would be Iyar, right? But whatever it is, right? So you go ahead and you have the second month, the 27th day of the month. That's when it became completely dry and impossible for the man to go out on the earth.
27th of ER?
The 27th, so either of Iyar, we give me the two opinions, right? 27th of Iyar or the 27th of Cheshvan, right? And I think for some reason, it's sticking in the back of my mind. Rashi brings down both opinions, but then I think Rashi says that it really was the 27th of Cheshvan, right? So so now it's interesting. But when did the flood start? So a year earlier, so the second month of the year, right? But the 17th of the month.
What's the significance between the 17th and the month? Because I hear that a lot. I see that a lot. But it's like the 40th, 40 years you see.
Right.
17 too.
17 I don't know. The 15th of the month is the Ides of March, right? Or the 15th is the middle of the month. That's when the moon is its fullest. Okay, and then that's what I know about the 15th of the month. I'm not sure what the 17th, if that has it. But so the flood, the flood started on the 17th day of the second month and ended on the 27th day of the second month. Does anyone know why it lasted 11 days longer?
They made a full calendar. They made a full solar year.
Ah, so very good. So the answer is because those 11 days is the difference between a lunar year and a solar year. Remember, how many days is a lunar year?
360.
No. Lunar year is...
17 days less than 360.
How many days is in the solar year?
365.
365 and a quarter. How many days are there in the lunar year? 354 and 354 and apart. How do you...
That's the 11 days.
And that's the 11 days. So that's why it started on the 17th month of the 17th day of the second month, ended on the 27th, that's your 11 days. That gets you a complete 365 days that the earth became uninhabitable.
So it went with the solar year.
So it went on the solar
But
year.
aren't we're a combination between solar and lunar, right?
So what do the Jewish people follow?
Lunar.
Lunar calendar.
But
Why do we follow the lunar calendar?
Because the new moon, because of the holidays that come up with the connection with...
Why on the lunar calendar? What does the moon do every day?
We
Shines
guide
a
in
light
the
on us at night.
It
Okay,
wanes.
it grows, it changes. Something gets bigger, something gets smaller, but it changes.
The Jewish people are like
The Jewish people have to be like the moon. Every day we have to grow. We have to change, we have to become better. And it's therefore we go ahead and so we're going and we're changing and we're growing. Then we're becoming better and greater. That's what's happening. Right? Is that we're going ahead and we're changing and we're growing. And so that's why it's complete. So that's why we did follow the lunar year. And just by the way, just interesting, I don't know how to say year in Hebrew. Shana, Rosh Hashanah, right? At the beginning of the year. Shana. Shana is a year. Anyone know what the numerical value of Shana is?
354.
Actually, 355.
Huh.
Why not 354?
I don't know.
Because every lunar year is 354 and apart. So it really is 355 days. So the word Shana is actually the numerical value is 355. Right? Shin is 300, Nun is 50, and Hey is 5. That's 355. That's why a year is called a year, because it's 355 days. Right? Now, technically, we know this solar year is a quote-unquote more technically, I don't say correct, because, for example, today is August 20th, 2018. Sunrise was 6 something this morning. Sunset is 8:06, 8:05, right today. In August 20th, 2025, when is sunrise going to be? Same time, same exact time. Right? So the solar calendar is always, what it is today will be, right, this is basically every day, right, is the same all the different times. Right? But we Jews follow the lunar calendar because we're supposed to be growing.
Who ordained
every
that
day.
we would use the lunar calendar? Who did that?
Who did that?
Abraham?
God.
God said.
God said so.
Where?
That's my question.
Genesis?
No.
Probably the Pinchas.
No.
No. There's so many.
It happens to be interesting. It's one of the first mitzvahs we got as a Jewish people, actually, was the calendar.
Really?
Yeah. Exodus chapter 12. The first mitzvah he gave to the Jewish people in Egypt when we were getting ready to leave, what was the mitzvah? HaChodesh hazeh lachem, Rosh Chodesh, and this month is going to be the head of the month. Right? Rishon hu lachat sheshana, the beginning of the months of the years.
Yeah, because for you to know that month is the beginning, you'd have to know what the rest of it was. So
Yeah, or because we did it because God wanted to make that the month we left Egypt was the first month of the year. So every time you say a date in Hebrew, you know what you're saying? Like I said, today is the 9th of Elul. Okay? So it's you write it 9th of Elul, but 9th of the 5th month of the year. Right? It really, excuse me, 6 months. Elul is the 6th month. So you go 6, 9, 57, 78. Right? That would be, right? That's our calendar. Right? That's the Hebrew calendar. 6, right? The 6th month, the 9th day of the month, 57, 78. Okay? What's very fascinating is that there are two major pieces of information that comes out on the Jewish date. The Jewish date is teaching you. Number one is that 6th month. This is the 6th month. This is the 6th month of when?
From Nisan.
From when the Jewish people left Egypt. So we're reminding you, right? We're counting when we left Egypt 6 months ago, right? And 5778. What is that telling you?
From the time of creation.
From the time, not creation of man.
Of man.
Right? So man was created 5,778 years ago. So anytime you see a Hebrew date, it's giving you two crucial pieces of information. A, when we left Egypt. B, when man was created. And those are the two pieces of information that we're going ahead and that we're giving you.
Well, we left Egypt on the 1st of Nisan, didn't we?
No, we left Egypt on the 15th of Nisan.
Okay.
Why did we leave on the 15th of Nisan?
I can't remember.
That's wrong.
And that's only you. But your wife's not here, so today you might be right.
That might be right, but no one can hear.
No one, but she wouldn't know. Right? So why did we leave on the 15th of Nisan? We left on the 15th of Nisan because that's when the moon is full.
The full moon.
Full moon, right? That's right. That's when, right? That's when it all happened, right? So that's happened when you write at the beginning. That's what the 15th of the month. That's why the Jewish holidays. When do they come out?
The 15th.
15th.
Oh, he's the fullest.
Because the fullest, right? Right. Pesach and Sukkot both come out on the 15th.
What about the new moon? They always talk about the new moon, not the full moon.
Oh, no, it's very good. So we have Rosh Chodesh when we mark the beginning of each month.
Oh, it's the new moon, the beginning.
In the begin, that's when the new month begins.
Okay.
Right? And there's only one holiday that comes out, by the way, on Rosh Chodesh. What holiday is that? I give you a hint. You're going to celebrate it in 3 weeks. Rosh Hashanah. Right?
Oh, okay.
Right? Rosh Hashanah comes out on the first day of the year. Right?
Oh,
Right?
that makes sense.
Right? So that's where that comes. Right? This is kind of just. So anyway, so looking back here. So God makes the flood. The flood started the 2nd month, the 17th day. When did it end?
27th.
2nd month, the 27th day. In order to get you a full 365 days that the world ceased to operate. Right? The world changed operating. Right? The world was sort of like in a twilight zone the entire year. Right? That's what took place.
So when did the Noah's law start?
When did Noah's?
Law. The 7 Noah.
Oh, the 7 Noahide laws? Okay, the 7 Noahide laws. Remember, 6 of them were given to Adam in the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
Right? Six of them were given way before Noah ever was born.
Was it given away in the writing?
Was handed down. God told Adam that these are the 6 laws that mankind has to live by.
So you gave the blueprint.
He told them these are the 4 laws, the 6 laws that all mankind has to obey.
When was the 7th one given?
So we're about to get to it. If you hang in there, we'll get to it.
And Adam gave it to Noah in generation or just...
No. We're about to give it. God's going to give
I
it.
mean, if they knew the 7 Noah law, why would they do all this bad stuff?
Why? So you mean why weren't they listening to God? Is that your question? The same why today they don't listen to God.
Happened over and over.
Right? Again, I want you to know, the world has not changed. We have the same desires, right? And the same things that everyone is still running around to get. Right? The Torah is a handbook of teaching us how to live and how to use those desires. I'm giving a class tomorrow night, right? The 3-part series. I meant to announce that 3-part series tomorrow night on how to become wealthy, right? 3-part series, right? Tomorrow night, 7:30. We're starting here. Right? Tuesday night, 3-part series. Money.
Passive.
It's the same desire that the world has been chasing for 5,778 years. Nothing's changed.
Why?
Right? It's what we It's how we control our desires and channel them into doing something great. That's what it's about.
Why it doesn't change?
Why doesn't it? Because mankind's job is to overcome their desires. That's our job. That's our job in this world. It means we have to go ahead, we have to choose to have a relationship with God. And what we do and how we choose that is really what it's all about.
So even among the really pure
Pious.
yeah, Jew people,
Right.
it doesn't change.
We have the same desires. Mankind's got the same desires. So hopefully religious people have learned to channel those desires and at least to use them in a healthy way.
So do we blame the order of the society we're living in, like the government?
Then these are the same challenges that people have today. They have last week, they'll have last century, they'll have 1,000 years ago, 2,000, all the same stuff. Right? We have all the same nonsense we still have. Right? And it's man. Remember, I told you the Torah is really, people think it's a book of religion. It's man's study of God. I said, really, the Torah is really God's study. It's really a book of it's what's it called? It's man's study. It's God's study of man.
God in search of man.
Right, it's God in search of man.
Now you agree.
That's really what the Torah is. Right? Is mankind will they stop and do the right thing? That's what the world is really about.
So Abraham Joshua Hoshel, he was right on that part though.
That what?
The man in search of God in
Search of man.
Yeah.
That's what the Torah is. Right? That's what the Torah is, right? It's the God telling man, right, all the desires and all the things that you have, nothing changes. It is. It's a fascinating. I'll tell you a funny thing. The Talmud says there was two great people. Right, one was a great Torah scholar, Rabbi and Antoninus. Okay, Antoninus was a famous Greek or Roman, and they were so wealthy. Listen how wealthy they were. They were so wealthy that Antoninus used to be able to have radishes during the winter. I wonder what they would say about how we're living today. Right? Right? That's how wealthy Antoninus was. He had radishes during the winter. Right? What people considered wealthy, right? What was considered, right? What was considered like amazing, right? So that's all depending on the society you're living in, but it's the same thing. It's all about pleasures, physical pleasures, and doing, just doing the right stuff. It's all the same. It's all the same stuff. Right? It's all the same nonsense that we're busy running after and chasing after.
Nothing's new under the sun.
Nothing new, right? That's what King Solomon says. Ein chadash tachas hashemesh. There's nothing new. Life is pretty. It's pretty. It just comes in different packages, and we just have to be smart enough to recognize the different packages, right? And just to make the right decisions when the package comes along. Oh, this is God has tested me. Am I going to steal? Or am I not going to steal? God has tested me. Well, this is what's going to happen. What I'm going to do right with what I have, right? And we go ahead, right? It's going to go through each of these things, and God is going ahead, and right, it's just another thing. Brains, right? Looks, everything comes from God, and just making sure that we do the right thing with it. That's what it's about, right? And the world is not it's not complicated, right? We make it right, but it's really we make it complicated, and way more complicated than it has to be, right? And right, our goal in this world is to do the right thing, and that's what it's about. Okay, so Noach, God goes ahead, and the ark finally goes ahead. The earth is fully dried. 365 days after the flood has started. Okay, verse number 15. Go ahead, Peter.
God spoke to Noah, saying, "Go forth from the ark, you and your wife, your sons and your sons' wives with you, every living being that is with you of all flesh, of birds, of animals, and all creeping things that move on the earth. Order them out with you, and let them teem on the earth, and be fruitful and multiply on the earth." So Noah,
And multiply on the earth, right? Again, right? Where?
On the earth.
on the earth.
Right? So, right, on the earth, right?
Yeah.
And not in the ark. Right? They could not be fruitful and multiply on the ark. And by the way, and how did God tell Noah to leave?
He and his wife,
He and his wife,
then his sons,
and his sons, and his sons' wives. Right? Okay, now, interesting. How did he tell them to go into the ark?
He told them, men first.
Meant you and your sons, your wife and your sons' wives. Men and women separate. Why did he order them into the ark, men and women separate?
No sexual relations.
That they couldn't have sexual relations. But now,
They can. So
they
so
can
go
have.
together.
Right, so now therefore he says, man and woman, right? Noach, you and your wife, your sons and your sons' wives. Right? And then every living being that is in the earth, right? All the animals, order them out with you. Right? And they got to go out. They don't want to go out, carry them out.
Throw 'em.
Right?
Push it.
What?
He would actually have to force them out if they wouldn't go.
Right. You had to take them out, throw them out. Nicely. So
when the dove left, Mrs. Dove.
So, I always had that question. That's a great question. Right? When the dove left, he sent out Mr. Dove. Right? What happened to Mrs. Dove?
Yeah.
she stayed behind.
Well, he didn't send her out, but now he's sending her out. Hopefully, maybe Mr. Dove went to build a nest. So,
Maybe he said Mrs. Dove, so Mr. Dove would follow.
no, so he said not Mr. Dove, right? But when Mr. Dove, right? Mr. Dove had to go fly out and go find. By the way, you know what's unique about doves? The Jewish people, by the way, you know what's interesting about doves?
Yeah.
Jewish people are compared to
They're
doves. The monogamous. They mate for life. Right, so he said that Mr. Dove, he had to send out Mrs. Dove. Mrs. Dove had to go and find him. Right? And so out they went out of the ark. Right? Now again, did all the doves go out?
No,
Go ahead.
he had sacrifices.
Very good. He was giving offerings. Right? Remember, he brought 14 of the kosher animals, right? Because he had to use them as an offerings. Right? So therefore, he didn't want them all to go ahead and to be. Right? They couldn't all go. But he had to keep some back for an offering. Okay, so go ahead. So God orders them out. So go ahead. Verse number 16.
18.
18, sorry.
So Noah went forth, and his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives with him. Every living being, every creeping thing, and every bird, everything that creeps on the earth came out of the ark by their families.
What does it mean by their families?
In pairs.
With their families.
But it means that they could
Stay
leave
with
the
their
ark.
species.
They had to stay within their own species. They had to accept upon themselves, right, to go ahead to make sure that they would stick to their own species.
No mating between species.
No intermating, right, and that's actually why, right, male female, right, that comes from right also, right, sticking to your own species, right, okay, that's why the worst of this of sexual immorality is bestiality, right, because that's not even between two different species, right, it's right, that's the highest level. Okay, so they go out. So did they listen to God?
Yes.
No.
No.
Read it again. And tell me how they did not listen to God.
It says, so Noah went forth and his sons. They reversed the order.
They reversed the order. What happened? Who went out?
Noah and his
Noah.
sons.
Noah and his sons,
And his wife.
his wife,
That's
and
Noah's
then-
and their wives.
Yeah.
So
Like
did
we
they,
Before.
like they did before, like they came in?
Yeah.
The plot thickens. Why didn't they listen to God?
That's a good question.
Because they didn't listen to him on the ark because they had immarital relations and they had a kid. So they thought
Okay.
they might not do it.
But only one
I
son.
don't know which-
What about the other sons?
What?
What about the other sons?
Maybe.
Other sons were still celibate.
Right?
Yeah.
So why did they listen to God?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't hear him.
I mean, they didn't hear him. You spent a year locked up on the ark. I think there's one thing you heard, and that was God. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like if God says at that point in time, jump. There's only one question I would have asked: How high? And now God says, go out, and they're not going out. He and his sons and his wife and his wife. What happened? Why not?
They forgot.
They were so sick of each other.
They were afraid to go to the new world.
Go ahead.
Just because they didn't know what to expect anymore.
But God's taking care of them. What are they worried about?
The future of the land, they're going to change it now.
We weren't sure that the flood
Everything's
wasn't going to
change.
come back.
They said, we're going to go do this all over again. And then God's going to send another flood. He can destroy the world.
Oh, so they were like, we're not.
They say, God, we're not participating.
We're gonna screw up 'cause we're not.
Right. We know it's going to happen. Right? How many times had the world flooded already?
Once.
Twice. Right?
This is the second one.
This was the second one. Now this one was worse than the first one. Remember, the first one they only lost a third of the world. Now they lost the entire world.
They said that we're not humanly capable of doing what you want, so we're just gonna just.
We're not going down this path. Right. We're just
Why did they
We're
not
not.
listen to God? I don't understand.
because they said it, we're gonna put in all this work.
We're
We're gonna raise children,
and
have
it's gonna
pregnancy,
happen
raise
again.
children, and then what's gonna happen? It's gonna bring another flood and destroy the world.
That's what they were symbolically saying.
That's what they were saying, right? They're saying, right,
You're
that
going to destroy the world again, so we're not going to listen to you?
right. So we're not going down this path.
They purposely rebelled against God.
Yeah,
Even though
you
they heard
know,
him?
I don't want to say the word rebelled because that has like a lot of like strong connotations.
Okay, number one, they heard God, so there's no question they heard him.
They heard God, right?
Okay,
They knew
and
what
they
they're
didn't
doing,
forget what he said.
and they didn't forget what he said.
So
But they
this
said
is
we're
an-
not, we
This
can't,
is an intentional act of disobedience.
right?
Which
But
is-
really, out of more probably brokenness, right? Than
More-
like
more
it's
of-
not God. I'm going to show you who's boss, but God, I just can't handle it.
try.
Right? It's beyond me.
I can't do this.
I can't do this.
It's too much for me.
Right.
You're asking too much.
Right.
You're asking me to be good.
You know, you asked me to have children, and to put all this time and effort into them, and when I know the world's going to flood again.
So this is their way of saying, you're going to do it again.
Well, we're going to do it again. Right?
We're
Right? It
gonna-
wasn't that you did it unjustly, but we know that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. It's a kind of a fatalism.
It's kind of it's okay.
It's like saying, we're not in control, God.
But not just that we're not control, is that this is just going to go ahead and it's going to like it's just not going to happen.
We're
Right.
so out of control. He can't even control us.
Well, God can't control us,
Well, no, but
right? But
like-
not by leaving us our free will,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
right? Right.
So once they left the ship, God allowed them to have a
Relations.
sexual relationship.
Yeah, and they said no.
They said no.
They said no.
Okay, well they wanted to have child anyway. So
No,
No, they don't want to.
they don't want to have children.
They're afraid.
We're afraid because when they have children, what's going to happen?
No, they're going to sin and they're going to end up with the
I'm
world
going to
on
sin, and the
fire.
world's going to flood again.
No,
And
no, but my question is something else. My question is that they were expected to have a relationship. The whole idea was to have to create a new world,
A new generation,
new
right.
babies and so
right,
on.
right. That was the idea.
So why is it that right now, today's time, the Jewish people in general, man and woman are separated. They're not supposed to have relationships.
When?
Like when you go to synagogue, man and woman is separated.
Okay.
In
Hold on.
general, in
Okay,
modern
okay.
days,
Totally different.
Okay, hold on.
concept.
Men and women are supposed to be married. Men and women are supposed to be married and supposed to have children.
But they were not married.
And we're
They
supposed-
did
sure they
whatever
were.
they're supposed to do.
No, they were married. They were married, but God told them when you go into the ark, you can't have children. Now He's saying you can have children, right? And actually go out and have children,
Now we're
right?
afraid to do
And
it.
now they're afraid to have children because they said it's going to be too much work and not produce enough.
So the world grow until. So there was humanity or relationships, solid relationships, until when that started to fade apart and people became like more open and things like that.
I mean, so mankind was commanded to go out and have children, and they said,
that's the whole idea, sir.
right, now we're separate inside Shul, right? We're separate inside Shul because inside Shul, right, is a holy place, and you have to have a special awe and reverence when you're inside a synagogue, and when men and women are sitting together, there tends to be not a little distraction. It's so funny. I was once giving a class on this. And I said, Rabbi, I don't get distracted. So I said, oh my gosh, did you go to the doctor? And so then, no, Rabbi, I don't get. I said, okay, fine. I said, okay, most people do. 2 weeks later, he comes back and says, okay, Rabbi, you were right. I said, what was I right about? He said, well, this cute girl came to synagogue with this miniskirt. Can you believe she came in a miniskirt? I said, nah, I can't believe that. He says, and I couldn't pray the whole time. I was so distracted. I said, mechitza would have been helpful for you. He said, yeah, it would have, right? So that's why in a shul, right? That's why we do it separate, right? Because there has to be a special awe and reverence inside a shul.
It also has to do with covenant.
Right, it just being able to focus. I mean, you're focusing on God and nothing else. That's what a shul is meant to do, right? That's what takes place. Okay, verse number 20. Okay, Aaron, would you like to read?
Sure.
Oh.
Can I use it for quick? Okay, verse number 20. Okay. Then
Boris.
Noah built an altar to Hashem and took of every clean animal and of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar.
Right, so now, right, he brings an offering, right, he brings offerings now, right, of all the kosher animals. Right, not all of them, right, but from all the kosher animals, he brings offerings. Go ahead.
Hashem smelled the pleasing aroma, and Hashem said in his heart, I will not continue to curse again the ground because of man, since the imagery of man's heart is evil from his youth, nor will I again continue to smite every living being as I have done.
Okay, good. Now, interesting. Right, so here's right. So God smells the pleasing aroma, and again, we talked about how does the offerings work? How does pleasing aromas work?
You said this before.
How does pleasing aromas work?
Oh, it means you're going to change.
I mean, right? It's like when you walk into your house and you smell them frying the fried onions. It smells so good, the house, right? And right, why does it feel so good? Right? Why it smells so good? Because you know you're going to eat something good, right? So that's what an aroma does. An aroma gets you kind of like, there's going to be a good meal following this, right? That's what a pleasant aroma does.
God doesn't smell it.
So God doesn't smell it. But when a person brings an offering, what is the person saying?
The process is what you...
Right, he's saying, oh my gosh, I see you're really trying to change. Right, and you're making some effort to make this change. Therefore, it's a pleasant aroma. And here, very interesting, I will not continue to curse against the ground because of man, since the imagery of man's heart is evil from his youth. Okay, now it's interesting. Okay, because if you take a look now in the Hebrew, here you won't you won't see it clearly. But if you take a look in the Hebrew, the top page 40, the fourth word on the top line. Okay, minu'urav, right? Minu'urav is actually spelled missing a vav. Okay, if you take a look on the top page 40, the fourth word in, right, is actually.
What would the vav be after the ayin?
After the ayin, yeah. After the ayin is where the vav should be. Right, minu'urav is what it should be, right? And yet it's right. And so how could you read that word without the vav in there? That word could be read as mishaninaer.
And what does that mean?
When the baby begins to move. When does the baby begin to move?
20 days.
When it begins exiting the womb.
What moves in the womb?
But when the baby starts coming out, right? That's when the baby gets the evil inclination.
Oh.
Right? Very interesting, right? Right here, the Talmud says, and we see from here that the baby gets its evil inclination when it begins to exit the womb.
So is that the same time that
The angel hits it on the lips, and he forgets all his Torah. Yep, and now you wonder why the baby cries when they're born.
That's why.
They take away the good.
And take away the good and give them the bad. By the way, this is really cool. When do you get your Yetzer HaTov? When do you get your good inclination?
I think
13 and
20 days.
40 days.
40 days.
Okay, you see, right? It
40
depends.
days,
It's different whether you're a boy or a girl.
Yeah. Well,
When does a girl get her good inclination?
30 days.
Nope.
At birth. I mean at conception.
Nope.
Conception?
We get our good inclination when we turn bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah. So when a girl turns 12, she gets a good inclination, and when a boy turns 13, he gets his good inclination. So we have our evil inclination for 12 or 13 years longer than we have our good inclination. So then becomes a question, well, then how can we do good when we're young?
Before bar mitzvah, bat mitzvahs?
So the answer is we can do good because our parents are considered our good inclination. So we have an internal evil inclination, and our parents are considered our good inclination. Which is why we say, if a child sins, who gets the punishment for the child sinning?
Parents.
The parents. Why? Because we're supposed to be the good inclination. We're supposed to be teaching them to do the right thing, right? So we don't get it, right? But a boy gets his good inclination when he turns bar mitzvah, and that's 13. It doesn't mean when you have your party.
So since
The party is nice. You still bar mitzvah even if you don't have a party. Just want to let you know that. And even, shockingly, if you don't get called up to the Torah, you're still bar mitzvah, right? And a girl turns when she turns 12, she's bat mitzvah, and at that point in time, she gets a good inclination.
So we were thinking Neshama at 40 days.
Right. So that's at 40 days after conception. That's when the soul gets hooked up with the fetus.
Right.
Okay, so at 40 days, right? That's when the soul comes into the fetus, and that's when the fetus. And
So
interesting.
at that point, it's no longer just a part of the body. You have this,
Right, and at that point in time, it's now a human being, right? It kind of right. It's no longer now just like a piece of meat, right? And part of the mother. At that point in time, that's when the soul becomes part of the fetus.
40 days.
40 days.
So what you're saying, Rabbi, is before the bar or bat mitzvah, the sins of the child are visited upon the parent.
Correct.
Interesting.
Correct. Right, and so and that becomes that job.
Wait, rewind that again. What did you say?
It's saying that before the child becomes bar bat mitzvah, right, the sins of the child go to the parents.
Oh, okay.
Right, when that's why when our sons become bar mitzvah, we say Baruch Shepet. We make a quasi blessing. Baruch Shepetrani me onsho shozeh. Thank God I've been released from this guy's punishment. Basically telling them you're on your own, baby. Now you get your own spreadsheet. You know, like you're gonna get your goods, you're gonna get your buy-ins, right? You're gonna go ahead and you're gonna get right now. Now it's your right now it's on your own. It's on your own sheet. Right. That's where that's going. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Good. Verse number 22.
Continuously all the days of the earth, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease.
Now what does God say? He says, I'm not going to destroy the world anymore. Right? And what else?
The seasons will continue.
The seasons there will be 6 seasons.
And there were before, right?
Right? And so here is the creation God saying of 6 seasons. Okay? People think there are 4 seasons. There are really 6 seasons. Right? There are 6 seasons, right, that God goes ahead Right, and God now creates 6 seasons. Before the flood, how many seasons were there? One. What was that season called? Spring. It was springtime all year round. And now God says, I'm going to start with the seasons.
Yeah, I have a problem with the small scenario first of all.
Yes.
Question number 1. Is Noah better than Abraham?
Is Noach better than Abraham? Well, it depends.
Because he built the first altar, and did God tell him to build the altar?
Also, he built the altar. But again, remember, Adam built an altar too.
What is altar?
Altar is a place where you bring an offering to God.
So did they make a roof for themselves?
No. An altar means a place to bring up an offering to God.
But anybody can burn something and say that, okay,
Correct. But so now Noach made an
What is
altar.
the point of altar for them?
An altar was a place that you consecrated as a place to serve God.
But they have other problems to deal with, not the altar right now.
Yeah, correct. They have other problems. The first thing you got to do is what?
Build an altar.
Build an altar to God.
So why do we make mikvahs instead of altars now?
That's very interesting. What happened was,
When you make a synagogue, the first thing you gotta do, you gotta make a mikvah.
you got to make it because we could pray anywhere, right? But a mikvah, right, a place where that is used for family life, that goes ahead and that has to be, right? That goes ahead and that's right for family life. That's where family life begins, right? So you need to have your mikvah.
Now, why did God forgive us? I mean, He gave us a flood.
Why does God forgive? Because God is so kind, and merciful.
But He knew this is gonna happen.
Absolutely.
He knew what we have today.
Right? So God is so kind and merciful, right? And God is a, we call Kel Chanun V'Racham. He's merciful and kind. He's beyond anything we can be.
So before Moshiach comes, would this happen again?
The flood, no. God, when we see, hold on, we gotta get to that. Okay, again, page 41 in the Stone Chumash, chapter 9, verse number 1. So is everything, remember, let's just go what happened. God tells them to go off the ark, you and all the animals, and what do?
They make a mistake.
they all go off the ark. He gets them off the ark, but right, he doesn't want to be participating and be fruitful and multiply. He's on strike.
Oh, he's like, fine, we're just gonna.
Right. We're not going to multiply. We're good. Right? Okay. Right. Builds an altar to God, which is good. Brings the animals as offerings for God, which is all good. Right? And then God says, you know what? Oh, look at my children. Oh, it's so quelling. And look at that. They're telling me they're going to change. They're going to be good. They're going to be righteous. Okay.
Oh, because then they changed their mind with the altar. Because before then they weren't gonna.
No. But that was just showing God that they were that was putting into action. Right? But can you imagine what they were doing on the ark? Besides running and feeding all the animals, and while they were running and feeding the animals, if only we would have been more righteous, we wouldn't have to be on here.
Oh no.
Right. You can imagine the soul searching that took place. Right? What could we have done differently, right, in order to make this not happen? Right, so they come out, right?
They came out with low self-esteem.
Right, I don't know. What I say, they came out. They felt really horrible, and they're gonna change. Okay, chapter 9, verse.
The altar was for the burnt altar was like, okay, we're going to change now. And so, okay.
God,
okay,
we're gonna be better.
That's what that was for.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they want to be merciful from now on. They want to be good.
They want to be good, right? God, we want a total line, right? We're gonna be
They want to
good.
be a good humanity. This is what they're trying.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Smell the aroma and he thought, okay, good.
Okay. Chapter 9, verse number 1. Isaac, you want to read?
What page are we on?
Page 41.
Page 41, chapter 9. And as for me...
Chapter verse 1.
Oh, I'm so sorry. God blessed Noah and his sons, and he said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the land. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every bird of the heaven, and everything that moves on earth, and you and all the fish of the sea. In your hand they are given. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. like the green herbs, and have given you everything. But flesh with its soul, its blood, you shall not eat.
Oh, so what does it say? He said, now, he says to Noach, guess what? You're going to be able to eat
Everything.
meat. You're going to be able to eat everything before. Remember, before the flood,
You couldn't eat meat.
you could only eat, right? You could only eat,
Roadkill.
right? You could only eat roadkill of animals, but you could only, right, fruits and vegetables, but you could not kill an animal for eating, right? You kill an animal for other reasons, but not for eating. Now it goes ahead and now says, from now on, you're allowed to kill animals, even to eat animals just for eating. Why?
Because they owe their life to you.
Because they owe their life to you, and therefore
saved them.
you save them.
Oh, I
And
see.
therefore you have the right to do this. But you can't eat them while their life is still inside of them.
No, you can't eat the blood.
You can't. No. You can't eat it while they're still alive.
Can I eat them on the-
You can shoot it
Oh, that's
and
the
eat
sin.
it.
That's Noah's
You
son.
can't go ahead and you can't, right? If it's still alive, you can't walk over and rip off a leg and eat it, right? You have to kill the animal before you eat it.
Shoot it?
Sure.
Whichever way you want to kill it, kill
Whichever
it.
way, right. Kill it however you want. But it's got to be dead before you eat it.
But you can't eat it. I can't take a limb from a live animal and eat it.
Right.
So
That's the
this-
seventh-
the-
And
Noahide
this
law.
now becomes the seventh Noahide law for mankind. We had 6, and we're getting to Adam. This now became the 7th. And since this became the 7th, so because of that, right, this now became the 7th. And because this became the 7th, at that point in time,
Seven
this became the 7th Noahide law, and that's why we call them the 7 Noahide laws, even though 6 of them were given to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. But they're called the 7 Noahide laws because the 7th one was given to Noach, right? And therefore we call them the 7 Noahide laws.
We haven't been, we're not
What is the
practicing.
6 again?
What are the 6? Okay,
Yeah.
the 6 are
Page 53.
in page right 53 in the Stone Chumash that has them. Right, go ahead. You want to read them?
Sure. Idolatry.
No idolatry.
No idolatry.
No adultery, no murder,
No
no stealing,
court system.
setting up a court system,
Blessing.
knowing knowing there's a God, right? And then
does not
and
eat
don't eat a limb from a live animal.
There's no kosher laws yet.
Right, so there's no kosher law. Now again, it's interesting. There are no kosher laws the way we have kosher today. Even though Noach knows the kosher laws. How do we know Noach knows the kosher laws?
Because he was taking 7
Because he took 14 kosher animals and 2 of non-kosher animals.
But you can't just cut it into an animal in a certain way. You have kosher has to have where the animal's not faint.
No, so today we have the mitzvah of slaughtering, right? You have to slaughter the animal first, right? You have to salt it to take out its blood, right? There's a certain way to process it, right? To go ahead and to do that, right? But those laws did not apply. That just became over here. Actually, all animals were there for Noach to eat. Just had to make sure that before you eat them, you had to kill them.
Did Noah have an easy life?
Noach have an easy life.
I mean, did he have to plow the ground? Did he have to take care of the animals? Did he have to make a home for himself?
Yeah,
Did he
sure.
have to survive?
Absolutely, of course he did.
How long did it take him to build the ark?
It took him 120 years to build the ark.
That's not easy work.
No, it's not easy work.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Here we see that. Okay, first question is: do we have Jewish people vegetarian?
Do we have Jewish people that are vegetarians? Okay, now that's a loaded question. So first of all, there are no Jewish people at this time. Okay, there are no Jewish people at the time. And there were no Jews, right? The first Jew is really Abraham. Okay? So now becomes now Jewish people as a vegetarian becomes a more sophisticated question. Because what you have to say is, why are you a vegetarian? If you think because it's healthier to eat it or whatnot, so fine, whatever it is. That's okay. If you think you're a vegetarian because we don't have the right to kill an animal, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Right? The Torah explicitly says, right, that we are supposed to go ahead, right? We have the right to kill an animal to eat it.
Yeah, that's my point. Because here is showing that God is giving dominion
Over the
the-
dominion we had already back in the chapter 1 of Genesis. Here now is not a dominion. We're given dominion over all the animals in the world. Here, mankind is specifically put on steaks are now on the menu.
Kosher steaks.
No, steaks.
Any kind of steak.
Any type of steak.
Pig steaks.
Pork ribs. That's a bag, right? That's yes.
No, I could eat pork.
You know. It's
Where
so
do you
funny.
eat pig then?
Why, pigs? You know what pigs eat?
I know, garbage.
Garbage.
Garbage. Pigs are such disgusting. Why do people want to eat pig? I don't know. I'm quite happy not eating pig. I want to let you know. The only reason I like eating pig is because it's 16 to 39 cents a pound. Right? But otherwise, you actually think about it.
Kosher pig gets much more expensive.
And by the way, you should just know. Interesting. I'll tell you an interesting Rabbeinu Bachya. You know how you say pig in Hebrew?
Oink.
It's a chazir.
Chazir.
Right? A chazer. A chazer. Stop being a chazer, right?
Chazir, yeah.
Right? Okay, a chazir. Do you know what the word chazir means?
No.
Lachzor. He's called a pig. It means he's going to come back and he will become kosher again.
Oh, he will become kosher again.
How will he become kosher?
And the microdome laboratory.
He's going to come back and become a cow?
So when the first kosher laws were instituted, I mean,
One of the first kosher. Okay, kosher laws like we have kosher laws. They were instituted, right? We got them at Mount Sinai.
at Mount Sinai,
We got the Mount Sinai. We got the kosher laws, right?
as a package,
as a package, right? But Adam kept kosher. Noah kept kosher, right? But here he's actually given all animals to eat whatever he wants. Right? But that's really why vegetarian is a little more complicated.
But you just said Noah could eat pig. That's not kosher.
He could,
But he didn't.
right? He didn't. He was not
so
right.
who
Right?
better?
No. Like this. Noah was not commanded to keep the commandments. Right? He kept them anyway. Just like Abraham wasn't commanded to keep the commandments, he kept them anyway.
I see. Because they knew.
Because they knew them. Right? Because remember, because the commandments, we don't keep the commandments just because God said that they're commandments, which is quite a good reason to keep them. Right? But we keep them as well because the commandments are a way for us to come closer to God. That's a way for us to build a relationship with God. That's why we're doing it.
That was my actual question.
Yeah.
Until now, the humanity has a standard laws to cover.
Right.
So why do we Jewish people have all of a sudden all the 600?
Why do we have more? Why do we
Why do we
613?
have to put it to?
Because the Jewish people are special.
Okay, but
So
made
we have
rice
another
too.
607.
But I Rabbi,
I think it's
Rabbi,
because if we only had 10, we'd need clarification.
just the Yom Kippur. I have to fast and nobody else has to fast.
Correct?
But I have to pay the price for this.
Yeah, that's right. You're the only person that gets a chance to do tshuva. And the day that God says, whatever you ask for, I'll give you. The other people don't. It's pretty rotten not to be the other people.
Wait, what did he say about ask for you? He gives you?
On Yom Kippur, only Jews have Yom Kippur. Non-Jews don't have Yom Kippur. See, the whole world has Rosh Hashanah, right? The whole world is judged. But Yom Kippur is only for the Jews.
Miss, what did we ask for anything on Yom Kippur you get?
Yeah, God says that whatever, God is, it's actually like God takes the evil inclination, the Satan, right? And he locks him up for the whole Yom Kippur. He can't talk.
Satan actually is an employee of God. Satan
Of course he is.
So he does what God tells him.
Of course, he's on
So
God's
he's like
payroll.
a bad messenger, basically, right?
He's not a bad messenger. He's doing what God told him to do.
Yeah,
He's a
so
good
what-
messenger whose job is to make us do bad things.
That's what I mean.
Right?
So
Right? He doesn't have an identity outside of what God wants
So
him
it's
to
a
have.
bad angel. Let's say not so bad angel. It's a dark angel of God who is supposed to do
Whose our job is not to listen to him. That's the job.
So he sends
That's a hard job.
Satan. The God sends Satan
Right.
to people
Right?
to test them.
Right. Excellent.
Will they succumb to evil inclinations? or
Correct.
what?
Correct. That's our job. And our job is to resist him and not to listen to him.
Rabbi.
Yes.
In the Devarim, I think is at the beginning, I was trying to object to Jewish people are special. We are not special. We're chosen with a mission, that is a big responsibility.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. That's what we have. Right? We have we chose. We have a big responsibility.
Otherwise not here.
Yeah, I'm going.
So
We
if
go to
Satan
925.
delivers the message when it comes for a person to leave this world, Is it connects with Satan as a
It depends.
angel of death? He
It
is
depends.
also-
Yeah, the angel of death. Yeah, that's the same thing. But yeah,
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think, remember last Yom Kippur when I was like not really gonna fast and then my car got stolen the day before Yom Kippur and then I prayed to get my car back and then the next day it came back?
Yeah.
Do you think God had my car stolen from my driveway the day before Yom Kippur because he knew I was gonna try to wing it and not fast? Or do you think he did it to show me that if I prayed for anything on Yom Kippur, I would get it the following day? Which
Both.
Is that,
Both.
is that weird if you look at
no,
it?
no, no. That's exactly what happens. Right? My car's in the shop now. I think it's in the respirator. I think it's like in the ICU.
What
got-
happened to it?
It's not cooling. It's not cooling. It's just so like I'm praying for a new car, right? But God, all things that happen in our lives are meant for. It's God saying, "Hey, wake up! You know, here's an opportunity to pray a little harder." Right? Right? You need a car. Pray for a car.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So when Joseph ran away from Potiphar's wife,
Yeah.
was he attracted to her, or did he find her ugly?
No.
He was very attractive.
Very attracted to her. He almost succumbed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was falling about to sin, and then with the last ounce of energy, he was able to break away, and he saved the Jewish people by doing that. One small right step for mankind, one great man for humanity, right? When it came to the Sea of Reeds, and God told the Sea of Reeds to split, the Sea of Reeds said, "I'm not splitting." And then it saw the ark of the coffin of Joseph and Joseph's bones. It said, Joseph could overcome such a desire. I could overcome my nature too.
Who said that?
That's the Sea of Reeds. And that's how we have the right. That's how we got out of the Egyptians were chasing down and Sea of Reeds split because of the merit of Joseph doing that. And every time we get put into situations, by the way, right, that are hard, right, then we think we can't overcome. Right? When we rise to the occasion and overcome, we're saving the world. We're turning the world upside down and on its head. Right? It's an incredible thing. Right? And what happens? Okay, so it says you can't go ahead, right? But flesh with its soul, its blood, you shall not eat. Okay, verse number 5. Go ahead, continue.
Who, me?
Okay, page 41. No, Susan, you want to read?
However, your blood which belongs to your souls, I will demand. Of every beast will I demand it, but of every man, for that of his brother, I will demand the soul of man.
What does that mean? Oh, go ahead, verse number 6.
Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God he made man.
Right, so it says, right, you could kill an animal, but you cannot kill a human being. Right, you're right, you can't kill a human being. You know, right, then what happens if you kill a human being?
You forfeit your
Another
life.
human being will kill you.
Right, you're right, you put to death, to be put to death, right? You forfeit the right to live. Okay,
I don't
go ahead.
understand this 5.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
However, your blood which belongs to your soul, I demand of every beast, will I demand it. It means that an animal, now you're going to be able to go kill animals.
Right.
So will the animals now be able to come and kill you?
No.
No, so that's exactly what the Torah is saying. That the animal, right, that is that at that point in time, right, it goes ahead, right,
So he's saying you can't kill your brother.
right, and you can't kill man, right? You can kill an animal, you can't kill, right, right. That's right. That's what happens.
So if you kill somebody, then your blood will be shed by man.
Right. I mean, then what happens?
So this is kind of like the penalty for murder is death. Don't kill anybody,
Right. You can't kill anybody, right?
even though you might want to.
Yeah.
Is the penalty in Israel for murder death?
The penalty of Israel, no.
No.
Today, you mean?
Yeah, today.
Yeah.
They
No.
don't have a death penalty.
Again, that's not a question of right or wrong. You should know before Carter went and reinstituted the death penalty, he sent a letter to Moshe Feinstein, the great halachic deciser, right, in Jewish law. And he said, is it appropriate to have it? He wrote a whole response to him. He says it is appropriate to have it.
Have the death penalty.
Yeah.
But Israel doesn't.
Israel doesn't. Again, I'm not sure it's appropriate or not, but that's just what it is. Now, I do want to point out something interesting. If you just take a look back for a second, when mankind went and when Noach came and brought an offering, right? What does it say about God? What happened with God?
He said in his heart, I will not continue to curse the ground of man.
Right. So what happens at that point in time?
He's renewing the covenant with man.
And how is the Torah referring to God at that point in time?
I say attribute or name?
Which name of God does it use at that point? Hashem. Interesting. What name did he use for God before that? Elohim, which is God of justice. So God is switching from God of justice to God of mercy when mankind brought an offering. Right? When you go and you pray, right, you help God, right, go off the throne of justice, you go to the throne of mercy. What's interesting, right, is that you go ahead and you now, right, you now go ahead and but now when God says to man, right, be fruitful and multiply, it switches back to mercy, it switches back to justice, right? Because this whole chapter 9 is really about mankind is still not listening to God, right? Because God said, "Go and have children." What did mankind say? No. So right, so the whole beginning of chapter 9 is all you see. God's name now switches back to Elohim, which is God of justice, right? Because now mankind is still not listening to God.
They're not going to have babies?
That's exactly what is happening.
But
Then after they made an offering, didn't they capitulate?
No.
They're still saying no.
Still saying no.
It also establishes that God is the boss.
Right.
No, he holds sway over both.
Man, he told you what to do. Okay, go ahead, continues.
And you be fruitful and multiply, teem on the earth and multiply on it. And God said to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And for me, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your offspring after you, and with every living being that is with you, with the birds, with the animals, and with every beast of the land, with you of all that departed the ark, to every beast of the land. And I will confirm my covenant with you. Never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of the flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth.
Okay. Now again, and actually here's a little mistranslation that I just want to point out to you, and because really verse 11 should read, and I will confirm my covenant with you, and never again will all flesh be cut off from the waters of the flood, and there won't be. And it's interesting. The first part, right? Another flood, but it shouldn't say another flood. It shouldn't, and there will not be another destruction to destroy the world.
Where does it say that?
Okay.
It says flood.
I'm telling you that word flood is wrong.
It's not there.
It's not there. How do you say flood in Hebrew? How do you say flood in Hebrew? You ever heard the expression, it's mobbling outside?
Yeah.
Right? So how do you, right, mobbling, you know where mobbling outside? From mabul, right? Which is colloquially translated as flood. But that's really wrong. Because if mabul means flood, then I want you to look at the beginning of verse 11. And I will establish my covenant with you, and no longer will all flesh be cut off, mimei, from the waters, hamabul, of the flood. Isn't that redundant? Shouldn't say, and no longer will all flesh be destroyed from the flood. Mimei, lo likaris kobasa od mimabul. If the word mabul means flood, then the waters of the flood is redundant. Flood means water. Okay? So what does it mean? What does the word mabul really mean?
Waters of destruction would be a better translation.
Passing by.
No, what?
Passing.
So what is the root of the word mabul?
Then
The word mabul really comes from the word bilbel. Okay? Mabul bahala, which means destruction. But there are many destructions God has.
Oh.
There's flood, there's hurricanes,
water,
there's
fire,
fire, there's right, what?
wind.
Wind, right?
Meteors.
Volcanoes, meteorites. So God here is not giving a real blanket statement.
He's
not
not
gonna
saying just
lie.
flood and saying, I'm not going to destroy even before, even like before.
Even not with the flood, I still won't destroy the world. So people are worried about, all the nukes that we're going to destroy the world.
Yeah, no.
You don't have to worry. 95% of the world might be destroyed, but never will they destroy 100%. The cockroaches will always live.
Rabbi, in that case, we talk about in that case, can we talk about the universe and the world?
Yes.
So God didn't say I will destroy the whole universe, but He said I will destroy the translation here said the world. Right?
No. He says, I will not destroy the world.
The local world.
The local world, our
This-
world that we are on, right? The world will not be destroyed.
Yeah.
Okay, the world will not be destroyed from a
Hurricane.
from not only not a flood. It won't be destroyed. The world will not be destroyed.
By a
The world or
meteorite.
the earth?
The earth.
Yeah,
I mentioned the
that's-
world and earth are not the same thing. Right? He says
Depends on the context.
he says I'll make it that that there won't be a total destruction in the world. Period. Okay, that's what it means. There won't be a total destruction in the world. There might be a local destruction. Right? The city might be destroyed. A country might be, but the world will not be destroyed. Okay?
So
Right.
let's take our nukes and throw them away.
No, but it's very important to have them. Right? Don't do that. That's very silly.
No.
Right? Right? But God here promises there won't be a destruction of the entire world. Okay?
In fact, the destruction doesn't come from a nuke.
Hmm?
The destruction doesn't come from a nuke.
The nuclear-
Destruction comes from
God will
people,
not allow the world to be destroyed.
people are not getting married. People want to stay single and things like that.
Right, yeah, but we're doing a good job of destroying the world even without all that stuff.
We're
Right?
gonna do it.
Right.
But is God saying, you may do it, but I won't do it?
No, it's not the same because we're not destroying the world. I mean, we're destroying ourselves.
Okay, just in case you didn't catch the memo.
Right.
The world is all about the people.
Right.
Right, so don't worry about the grass and the trees. Now again, we have to take care of those too, right? But our job, right, is to make sure that the peoples thrive, right? And as Michael rightly pointed out, right, by not having children, not getting married, right, we're destroying the world by ourselves. Right? What's the birth rate in most Western civilizations is below replacement. Right.
Well,
We,
we're still
right.
7 billion, almost
8 billion, and thank God for the non-Western people.
Can I answer that part?
Right? No, again, for
The
people that.
growth- The growth comes from the Muslims.
Right. It's again, that's right. But our job is to have children to fill and to populate the world.
I thought the Jews were having a very big birth.
No. Let me tell you something. At the end of World War II, okay, the world population of Jews at that point in time was 15 million. That was in 1945. Today we are 73 years later. What should be the natural growth of 15 million? 73 years later?
30 million.
At least. And we are the same 15 million. Luck if we're that much. As we were, right? As we were 73 years ago.
Well, you get 15 million. I heard 18 million.
Why? Because we're not having children.
Why we don't have children?
Why do we not have children? That's a very good question. You might have to come to class tomorrow night to hear why we don't have children. Right? We're worried we can't afford them. They're too expensive. Right? Right? I can't travel. I can't. Right? I got too many things to do. Right? They take a lot of time. Right? It's a lot of.
And this is the reasons the Jews provide why they multiply.
Yeah. I mean, just look at me. But it's like everyone's like that. Right? Okay. Okay. Let's just finish up. Verse 12. Right? Go ahead. Verse 12.
12.
Norm, you want to read?
Sure, why not? God said, this is the sign of the covenant that I give you between me and you, and every living being that is with you, to generations forever. I have set my rainbow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. And it shall happen when I place it. And it shall happen when I place a cloud over the earth, and the bow will be seen in the cloud. I will remember my covenant between me and you, and every living being among all flesh. And the water shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh.
Again, and water never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. Right? Remember the Egyptians, right? The Egyptians went and killed the Jewish babies by throwing them into the water. Why did they kill them by throwing us into the water? Because they said God promised never to bring a flood. We're safe in Egypt. What was their mistake? God, A, promised never to destroy the world. He didn't say he wouldn't destroy a country. Number 2, he just brought the Egyptians to the water. Right? Okay, right? He just had the Egyptians run into the water to go catch the Jews. Right? And that's what happened. Bang, they were dead. Go ahead.
And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it to remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living being among all flesh that is on earth. And God said to Noah, this is a sign of the covenant that I have confirmed between me and all flesh, and it is upon the earth.
Okay, so what does God do? God says to Noah, okay, I still see you're not having relations. Right, well, guess what? Right, right, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to show a sign that it will no longer destroy the entire world of the flood. Go ahead. I will take, when you have a rainbow, what is a rainbow? So a rainbow is a reverse bow, a bow and arrow. How does an archer show that he is, surrendered?
Lays down his bow.
Not lays down his bow. What does he do with his bow? Turns the bow, he turns it the other way around. Instead of having the flat side towards him and the bow facing the enemy, turns it the other way around. So the bow, right, so it's facing himself. What is a rainbow? An upside down bow facing towards God, not towards men. That God is not going to go and shoot down arrows right off floodwaters towards us. Remember, the God goes in and God says no. Okay, good. Now, there is a blessing you make when you see a rainbow.
Yeah, I always forget that blessing.
Yeah, it's a longer blessing. It's not such a simple blessing, right? It's right. It's if you take a look in your art scroll sitters, right at the end of the morning service, probably look on like page 230 or something like that. And it has a bunch of different blessings. It has a blessing for a rainbow. But the question is, why are we happy when we see a rainbow? We should be really scared when we see a rainbow. Right? Because a rainbow says, God says, I'm going to destroy the world. But, I promised you I wouldn't, so I'm not going to destroy you. You know, it says the state of the world at that point in time. So the answer is there are two different types of rainbows. There's a rainbow that is meant to be, there's a rainbow that kind of flickers in and flickers out, and then the rainbow that comes and stays. Right? One of them is a sign that God was going to destroy the world, except He made a promise, so I can't. And the other one is a good sign. Right? It's a sign of a good thing. It's interesting. We went to Niagara Falls during the summer, and actually my daughter said, "Oh look, in the side of the falls you can see a rainbow. And you can see right with all the mist and the water, right, the sunlight hitting the water, meant to create a rainbow." Right, so
I used to live in a town called Waimea in Hawaii, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the sound would be surrounded by rainbows. It's the most amazing thing.
Right, yeah, it's pretty. So that's the different types of things that are there. Okay, folks, we're going to stop this evening, but again, before we stop, again, like 3 different important announcements. Number 1, we are starting a 3-part series. Starting tomorrow night is
How to make money?
how to become wealthy. What is it? How to become wealthy? What is it? How to become wealthy is it's starting tomorrow night, 7:30.
Oh, it really is.
It really is. Oh yeah,
Here.
yeah, here.
How to make, not like spiritual.
Like wealth, like how to become wealthy. How to become wealthy, financially wealthy. Yeah, okay. How to become? So come and bring your papers and pens. I'll give you all the dating trips you need.
You need our bank account.
Okay, right. So that will be a 3-part series starting tomorrow night, 7:30. Number 2 is the High Holiday series is upon us. Right, we're 3 weeks from last night. Starts the High Holidays. We have the learner service. We'd love to have you all come and join us for. And then number 3, and please sign up. And the scholarship's available, so just make sure that you come. And then we'll be having services at night and during the day. And then, last but not least, we have a letter for the ages. Right, we're starting a series now that everyone, all data students, are encouraged to take that book and to read it a chapter a day, probably like a page or 2. It's a letter that Nachmanides wrote to his son, something really important and really good.
This is like
Alrighty,
a present?
that book is a present, Boris. If you read it,
Of
if you don't
course.
read it, I want it back.
So I can have one.
Okay.
I can have one. Okay.
Alrighty, folks. Everyone have a wonderful evening.
Volunteer.